in studio, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Emergency Communications Center that's run through the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office, and I have three guests in here to talk about that. First, Plymouth County Sheriff Joe McDonald. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And we have the Plymouth Police Chief, Dana Flynn. Thank you for coming by today.
Thank you, Christy.
And we've got a trifecta here because we also have the Plymouth Fire Chief, Neil Foley. Great to see you today.
Good to see you as well.
You know, this is interesting. I know because I've been here, for decades, and I've seen that a lot of the towns go from separate dispatches to some of the bigger groups or communications. And I knew this in the back of my mind, but I wasn't quite sure about the details with the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office 911 Emergency Communications Center. Sheriff McDonald, give me a quick little background on it, and then I'm going to tell people why it's been so successful.
Well, this is something, the genesis of it goes back a number of years, and personally, I feel a great deal of gratitude toward the town of Plymouth for hosting the correctional facility. Not every community would welcome that, and I wasn't around when it first was built, but I do value that, and I will say, especially with Chief Foley in the room, that we're probably one of their biggest customers as far as emergency response goes. So I've really appreciated that. So I realized that staffing issues can cause problems for agencies like ours and like the fire and the police. So it made sense that we would band together to do this and provide this service for the town of Plymouth, and I think it's worked out very, very well.
Because in the past, as I remember, it was always separate dispatches. Police Chief Dana Flynn, because I remember we used to call your department twice a day and talk to some of the dispatchers, about what was going on, and then get referred to, your PIO or whomever to find out more information. Were you part of this decision to put police and fire all together with the Sheriff's Office dispatch?
Yes, I was. So back when I was appointed acting chief in 2021 of June, that very first summer, we were having extreme difficulty in filling vacant positions within our dispatch center. In my first summer, I only had 6 dispatchers on staff, 24/7, 7 days a week. And it took a great toll on them, and I could never say enough about them. They did yeoman's work, didn't miss a beat. So I started looking into possibility to regional, like many of the other departments that you mentioned, but by the time we started looking at it, we were too big. We had too many calls for service, more than some of these regional centers could handle. So we started looking for other alternatives, and began a discussion with Chief Foley how we could work together to come up with a reasonable solution for a community the size of Plymouth.
Now, Chief Foley, what was your position with the fire department? Was it the same problem with not having enough people to dispatch and be able to handle everything?
So what we did on the fire department is we had a firefighter that would be taken off the road, off the streets, to respond to calls, and we put them into the dispatch booth and gave them a certain amount of training to get them efficient to be able to do so, but they weren't professional dispatchers. They were assigned to that position typically for about 18 months, and then we would circulate somebody else in there. So there was always a good deal of turnover within that. We recognized that we were getting busier. We required an additional dispatcher to be in there to handle the call volume that we were doing. So now we took 2 firefighters off the street to meet that demand, which, obviously is going to reduce the impact that we're having on the call volume that we were seeing out in the street, being able to respond to those calls. Right around in 2021, just before I was appointed chief, when I was deputy chief, I was working on a project, doing a study department-wide, and one of the focuses was on dispatch. And what we found is that we weren't meeting the mark as far as the call processing time to work through those 911 calls and get the trucks on the road as quickly as possible.
So this looks like the reason I wanted the background is because I'm leading up to this. Looks like it's worked out, and this group, which is the 911 Emergency Communications Center, the Sheriff's Office here, Plymouth County, has won the Team Group of the Year Award at the Annual Association of Public Safety Communication Officials. So I guess it has worked out pretty well, and you must feel pretty good about that, Sheriff McDonald.
I am indeed. I'm very proud of the work. As Chief Flynn states, we have the utmost respect for the job that they perform. Even though they're inside, they don't necessarily leave the confines there. I can't imagine a more stressful situation than getting someone, a parent, let's say, with a child who's stopped breathing or is choking, and having to keep your wits about you and try to get them to keep their wits about them. So I couldn't be more proud of the men and women that work down there, and this award was richly deserved.
And it's interesting, Chief Flynn, we were talking a little bit off air. I think a lot of people probably don't have an idea of just how physically big the town of Plymouth is and how busy it is when it comes to police and fire calls, especially police. I mean, we hear it on the scanner, but again, it's just bits and pieces.
Right. Yeah, so as you know, we're 104 square miles. We have many facilities that some people don't realize, two high schools, 2 middle schools, a population of nearly 68,000. But even before, even after we switched to the combined center, we are still logging 40,000 calls per year. Those are just ones that are being logged. It doesn't account for the other calls to the dispatch center that don't require the documentation. But with the way the town of Plymouth has grown, it's just going to increase exponentially.
Right. And Chief Foley, you're talking about taking a trained firefighter off the road to answer the phone. So this is in the time when everybody is looking for more help in every department. This has had to help you exponentially.
It has. So it definitely had a direct impact. We were able to utilize those personnel that were in the dispatch, put them on the street, and that's definitely had a direct impact on our response, and obviously the quality of care and mitigation to different incidents.
Now, the number I have here that says the medical call response time since this was implemented with the Plymouth 911 has been reduced from 2 minutes and 20 seconds to 68 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
They say seconds count, so I guess they're not kidding when they say it really is a difference.
The impact that alone has had on with this whole project and getting the dispatch into combined. We're going to calls and people are still on the phone with the dispatch center explaining their problem, and we're arriving on scene. So that has really had a huge impact, and we weren't able to do that before because of the system that we had. That call was getting bounced around several different places during that process to get triaged appropriately, and now we triage everything in-house.
And there was an interesting call here that was a good example, because I think some people might think, well, they're dispatchers, they're just answering the phone. No, they're doing a lot more than that. They've got to be trained, at least I guess have a good training in a lot of different areas to be able to, when seconds count, to make the call. That's the important one about what to do. And there was an incident with a manager from BJ's calling, and I thought this kind of is a good way to illustrate exactly what's happening with this 911 dispatch center. Chief Flynn, did you want to fill us in a little bit on that?
Well, I think I'll defer that one to the sheriff. He, it was his personnel now that handled the call.
Well, it's our personnel.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
True.
Yeah, so no, I'm happy to...
That was with dispatcher Steve Murphy, and
Yeah.
with a call from
the
from BJ.
unresponsive employee, and it's like I was saying before that the dispatchers, there's a high level of training that goes into what they do, but there's also, I think, something that's innate within their personality, and that is the ability to remain calm when someone is and to communicate that to somebody to keep them calm when you have a situation.
Right. And I just want to jump over to Chief Foley here for a second. Wasn't there something involved with electricity and water? I mean, something that could have been a nightmare.
Exactly. So the process of becoming an emergency medical dispatcher, EMD, it's a certification, and that is something that we didn't have within our dispatch center prior to this consolidation. So now that we have it, those people are in-house and they have special training. So as they're going through their process, they were answering this particular call, and one of the questions, because they said, "Where is this person?" They said, "Oh, he's down inside of the freezer area of BJ's." And the dispatcher took that information, realized that there could be some moisture in that area, and said, "Is there any moisture of water on the ground?" And the caller stated that there was. Using an automatic defibrillator to treat the patient, he wanted to make sure that they pulled that patient out of that pool of water so that they didn't inadvertently shock everybody else, all the caregivers that were trying to do CPR. So just that alone, that level of training in that situation likely saved other people from injury, if not saved additional lives.
So all three of you must feel pretty good about this recognition coming with the 911 center. That must be a good. That must be a good feeling. Any plans for expansion? Anything like that, Sheriff?
Well, I think we'd love to consider that down the road, I'm sure. But right now I'm concentrating on doing the best job we can for the town of Plymouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know I will share this with you guys, and I don't know if I've ever shared this with the chiefs here. But when this was first floated, a number of the sheriffs came to me and said, "Don't go there. We've tried that,
Mm-hmm.
and it hasn't worked out." And I said, "Well, as unfortunate as that is in your circumstance, I said, I think we've got the right people in the right places, and I think this could just work." And guess what? It has.
It sounds like it has worked out very
Yeah.
well. Chief Flynn, anything else you wanted to add?
Sure. I mean, when I first started, dispatchers wouldn't deem nothing but dispatchers, call takers and dispatchers. But I think it's important for everybody to know they are such an integral part of the public safety community. They are professional communications specialists, and that's how they should be looked at. They are oftentimes the first. They answer the calls first. They are the ones getting the brunt of whatever situation is going on the other end of the line. And it affects them as well. We couldn't do our job without them, and I don't think not speaking for the fire chief, but we couldn't provide the level of services we are providing to our citizens without them.
It's great to hear. Chief Foley, anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, not only is this increasing the product that we're delivering to the community, but it's also increasing the safety of our folks out in the street, both the police and the fire department, because now that we have this consolidation and all that information is being funneled through one area, and they sit next to each other, they interact with each other. So when the police have an incident, but it may require an EMS response or a fire response, we're getting that information firsthand at the firehouses before we head out, which is increasing our safety as we're going out. We can be better prepared to meet the challenges that are out there with each call.
Well, that's great, and congratulations to the Dispatch Center for getting a very well-deserved award. Again, been here today with Plymouth County Sheriff Joe McDonald, Police Chief Dana Flynn, and Fire Chief Neil Foley. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Christine.
Thank
You're
you indeed.
welcome. I'm Christine James, 95.9 WATD, 95.9 WATD.